sun isn't something one considers when balancing the universe. But this does put a smile on my face.
I think it's safe to say that Thanos is definitely one of the best and most powerful movie villains of all time. The amount of time spent building up his character and making him into a badass is really quite amazing when you think about it. Thanos has been built up for a long time in the MCU. In fact, he's been around since all the way back in 2012's The Avengers, and then made a couple appearances in between. But it's by the time of Infinity War when fans finally got to see the big purple guy for real, and not just in a few short cameos. And it's not exactly difficult to notice that Thanos is by far the greatest threat the Avengers have ever gone up against. I mean, he literally won, and the only way the Avengers could ultimately defeat him was literally by time travelling. But I feel like ever since Endgame was released and time has gone by, many people have started to really downplay Thanos and forget about the powerhouse he is. I've come across people who like to call MCU Thanos slow and weak, and others who think he can't survive a single nuclear bomb. And that's all just utter garbage, because when you get down to it, even without the Infinity Gauntlet, Thanos is actually one of the most powerful beings inside the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he easily scales above all the Avengers, with the exception of Scarlet Witch and possibly a few others. In today's video, we will be closely examining the incredible strength, speed, durability, and all the other necessary categories for MCU Thanos, and as always, we will be detailing all of this down in a checklist, so you can actually see where Thanos scales to, and overall get a rough idea of what level he's on. Also, this video will only be covering base form Thanos, so that is when he's not amplified by the Infinity Gauntlet. Reason being because with the Gauntlet, he's literally the definition of omnipotent. Like seriously, there's not one thing he can't do with all 6 of the stones. So it'd be kinda useless wasting 10 minutes talking about what he can do when there's nothing he can't do. You get what I mean? So if you were expecting this video to conclude Thanos has some sort of universe-ending power, well, I'm sorry if you don't quite end up with the answer you wanted. Before we begin, I'd ask you to please leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel with notifications set. Now if you want to see more of our power scaling videos just like this one, then just leave a suggestion in the comment section down below. And while I can't guarantee an immediate response, I can assure you we take into account everyone's suggestions. My aim is that by the end of this video I will be able to convince you that MCU Thanos is a lot stronger than you may have originally thought. And so that means no lowballing of any of his feats or discounting any of them as incalculable, since there's still tons of evidence to back up the claims you're about to hear. Alright, with all that out of the way, let's begin. So before we start actually scaling Thanos, I just want to give you all a little background detail on him and his origins, and this is something I like to do with all the extraterrestrial type beings, like I did with Thor for example, because unlike the earthly characters, these guys are a lot more complex than that, and there are actually some important things to note before diving into their stats in detail. Thanos is part of a race of extremely powerful beings known as the Titans, and his Titan physiology gifts him with a physical attribute that are immense superhuman strength, speed, durability, as well as the ability to breathe in the vacuum of space. And really, this shouldn't come as a surprise, as Thanos has infamously been known for spending his first 6 years in the Marvel Cinematic Universe sitting in his floating chair in space. And of course, Thanos also has longevity, meaning that his lifespan is significantly longer than that of a human. But even for alien standards, Thanos is still really old. In an interview, Joe Russo describes Thanos as a 1,000-year-old being who has fought everyone in the universe. However, since we have no exact proof of his actual age, he could very well be much older than this. And that of course means that he has a huge amount of battle experience. Just bear in mind that Thanos has spent most of his days travelling around the universe conquering planets and destroying entire civilizations, earning a reputation as a galactic warlord. And during this time as a genocidal maniac, Thanos obtained a number of very powerful servants, whose main purpose was to serve him, those including Ebony Maw, Obsidian, Proxima Midnight, Corvus Glaive, Ronan, Loki, and the other. And so it only makes sense that they'd all be weaker than Thanos, because why else would they bow to him? Thanos has constantly been described as
the most powerful being in the universe,
and having fought everyone in the cosmos, he's the greatest. So if you're totally unfamiliar with Thanos, well, there's an idea of how powerful he is. So now with a little background context in mind, let's now get into an in-depth analysis on Thanos' actual stats, and what better to start off with than strength. Now of course, everyone knows about how easily Thanos destroyed Hulk at the start of Infinity War, I mean, there's still fanboys out there crying because Hulk lost, but in Thanos' case, this is all great news. The Hulk has never in his lifetime lost to someone this miserably, or this pathetically. He's battled against giant wolves, Abomination, and even awakened Thor, and still put up some sort of a fight. But against Thanos, well, he was like a defenseless punching bag, meaning Thanos automatically scales above all said characters in terms of strength. Whilst being taken off guard, Thanos was able to make the comeback of the century and proceeded to finish off the Green Giant in a world record time of just 24 seconds. Additionally, Ebony Maw tells Cull Obsidian when he's about to intervene to let Thanos have his fun, meaning Thanos wasn't even trying the whole time, he was merely playing with the Hulk. The MCU Hulk is obviously extremely strong. His greatest feats include backhanding a Chitauri Leviathan weighing approximately 3 million tons with a single fist, and almost knocking out Thor with multiple overhand strikes to the face. And so logically, Thanos scales well above both of these feats, since he scales way higher than Hulk does. Despite what the Russos may say, Thanos straight up overpowers the Hulk, proving to be the stronger one of the two. Hulk also had Thanos in a chokehold and was pressing his entire body weight up against the latter, so if anything, Hulk was the one in an advantageous spot. The fact Thanos was able to demonstrate such immense strength and skill by just completely eradicating the Hulk in such little effort and time is definitely something to let sink in, and is a great start to the Mad Titan's power level. Even more impressive than defeating Hulk, Thanos was able to battle 3v1 against Iron Man, Thor and Captain America all at the same time, and just completely dominate them all for the majority of the fight. Perhaps most notably during this fight, Thanos was able to consistently overpower and toss around Thor. While Thor was most probably weaker in Endgame compared to Infinity War, at least physically, he's still in his awakened form and was wielding both Mjolnir and Stormbreaker at the time, so he's still undeniably a fierce threat. Thor's greatest strength feat thus far is moving the gigantic rings of Nidavellir, which is a small moon level feat as confirmed by one of the artists for Infinity War, and so Thanos being able to so effortlessly overpower Thor means he scales far above this feat. And even whilst in a severely weakened and dishevelled state, Thanos was still able to overpower Captain Marvel by beginning to quickly pull back her leg with his arm before Bruce Banner and the Hulkbuster jumped him and assisted her. And remember, this is Farmer Thanos. Even when reduced to practically 5% health, Thanos is still superior to that of Captain Marvel in physical strength. That's pretty crazy when you think about it. While spatting it out on Titan, Thanos was able to effortlessly destroy one of Doctor Strange's Eldritch shields with a single and very casual kick. And this was later shown the second time in Endgame where Thanos used his sword to slice right through the shield. These shields could previously hold up to the infinitely powerful Dormammu's energy breath for a considerable amount of time before ultimately succumbing to him, which could, in theory, make Thanos' attacks at least equal to that of Dormammu's energy blasts. And during the battle in Wakanda, Thanos very casually plucked the Mind Stone from Vision's forehead and tore through the vibranium housing like it was made of tissue paper. For comparison, it took the combined might of Mjolnir's lightning, Iron Man's repulsors and Vision's Mind Stone beams to begin to slowly melt vibranium-wielding Ultron, so logically Thanos' strength outclasses all three combined, given how easily he destroyed the vibranium on Vision. And on top of all this, Thanos could also do things like throw Doctor Strange several hundred feet with a single arm, one-shot Black Panther with a punch so hard the suit overloaded its kinetic energy store, and swing his double-edged sword with enough force to shatter Captain America's nigh impenetrable vibranium shield. And while all this is definitely impressive stuff, none of it actually tells us whereabouts Thanos scales to in terms of strength or attack potency. So in order to do that, we'll have to take a look at some of his best calculable strength feats, and the first one we'll be discussing is his Tesseract feat. So of course, at the start of Infinity War, Thanos was able to casually crush the Tesseract in the palm of his hand like it was a soda can. We know that based on a line from Bruce Banner back in the first Avengers film, it requires a temperature of roughly 120 million Kelvin in order to break through the Coulomb barrier, which is basically the part that Thanos crushed. So with that in mind, Thanos would have had to output a minimum of 174.6 teratons of TNT to crush the Tesseract, which makes this feat large country level. And it's pretty obvious to me he wasn't even trying at all when he did this. Assuming he was using roughly 5% of his effort to perform this feat, that would still mean he could crush like 20 countries in just one hand. And I know this all sounds rather insane, but believe it or not, Thanos is actually even stronger than this. During his pretty tense brawl with Captain America, Thanos was seen effortlessly crushing his Uru metal helmet out of pure frustration. Now we've only seen oh so many characters in the verse capable of crushing Uru metal, Thanos being one of them, and similarly Hela has the same feat when she crushed Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, and when calculated this feat comes in at small planet level. And seeing how Thanos' armor is also supposedly made of Uru, him being able to crush his helmet like that should scale to Hela's feat. Or in other words, Thanos just crushed a small planet in his hand like it was made of plastic and everyone missed it. And I mean, just look at how easily he did it. The fact people don't even notice that this feat even exists and would probably just dismiss it as nothing special is honestly unbelievable. And I know some people would like to say, well, Captain America damaged some of Thanos' armor with Mjolnir, and so Thanos is not entirely responsible for crushing his helmet. And I mean, yeah, that's a reasonable response, however there isn't any concrete evidence to say that Cap was the one who weakened the helmet, or let alone even struck Thanos in said area. Never once does Cap actually hit Thanos on the top of his head where his helmet is located. He only really hits him at the side of his face and once on his chin. So if you ask me, Thanos sure did just crush the equivalent of a planet in his hand, and that was solely his doing. However, if you're still left sitting there like, that's it? Is that all he can do? Crush a small planet? Well, the answer is no. Thanos can actually reach even higher levels than this. So whilst battling it out on Titan with the Avengers, Thanos is seen easily ripping apart pieces of Iron Man's Mark 50 armor and slowly destroying the suit with his punches to the point where it looks practically deformed. During this same battle, Iron Man is hit by an attack from the Power Stone, twice, once deflected by his shield and the other directly to his chest. And on both occasions his suit sustains almost no damage and Tony is left relatively unscathed. We know from Guardians of the Galaxy that the Power Stone is capable of destroying entire planets merely by touching its surface and can output up to 5.2 nilitons of energy. We've also seen the Power Stone crush entire moons, and it was stated by Thor that Thanos used the Power Stone to decimate the planet of Xandar. So there you have at least 3 feats to prove the Power Stone is on a planetary level, and Thanos, being able to rip through Iron Man's armor, would therefore scale above the Power Stone with attacks and into the planetary ranges. So if you're still kinda puzzled at what we're saying here, the Power Stone can destroy planets, it can't destroy Iron Man but Thanos can, therefore proving that Thanos can punch harder than the Power Stone can. Pretty simple, right? So to put this into more simple terms, if we use the Power Stone's greatest feat as a baseline for this comparison, that means that Thanos can hit with forces up to 104 quintillion times stronger than the world's most potent nuke ever detonated. But of course, this only means when he decides to go all out, as not every character who's taken a hit from Thanos scales to this level. However, even this isn't the hardest Thanos has ever hit someone, as during Endgame he was able to easily draw blood from Thor with his strikes, leaving him looking bloodier than he ever has before. Now if we compare this to Thor's greatest durability feat, tanking
the full force of a star,
we can see that visibly the amount of damage inflicted onto Thor is very similar to that of what Thanos' strikes did to him. So Thanos could possibly destroy stars with his attacks, however that scaling is rather ambiguous, and as of now we can't really confirm he's on that level. So for now we'll just keep him at a large planet level, with a plus to indicate his potential to be even greater. Now when it comes to durability, well for Thanos it's pretty simple, as he scales directly to the gauntlet. However, before we talk about that, let's just take a quick recap at the other things Thanos has managed to survive. Of course, being the arch nemesis of the Avengers, Thanos has obviously come into contact with almost every single member and has taken persistent punishment from some of the strongest of the Avengers, including Hulk, Thor, Iron Man, Captain Marvel, Scarlet Witch, and worthy Captain America. Thanos was able to shrug off multiple attacks from the Hulk, whose punches could easily bring Thor to his knees and knock giant wolves out of the sky. He no-sword point-blank attacks from Captain Marvel, who could easily obliterate entire spaceships with her attacks. And the combined efforts of Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, the Guardians of the Galaxy, and Iron Man in his strongest armor ever created could only draw 1 drop of blood from Thanos. Thanos also took several combos from Captain America wielding Mjolnir, a weapon which could previously vaporize the city of Sokovia in just 1 hit, and was merely angered by all of Cap's attacks. He was seemingly unaffected by a lightning blast from Stormbreaker, and just a few months earlier Thor was able to pierce through the Rainbow Bridge using his lightning, which we calculated to approximately island level in our Thor power scaling video. Check that out if you haven't already. And during the battle on Titan, Iron Man dropped a mountain-sized Titan pillar on Thanos and shot him with an overwhelming amount of missile strikes, and in both instances, Thanos was left entirely unharmed. And finally, if we apply Newton's third law, that every action force has an equal and opposite reaction force, Thanos has to endure the amount of damage he hits with, then that means that all the strength feats we just mentioned are all relative to Thanos' durability. That includes the Tesseract feat, the Uru helmet feat, and his various performances against Iron Man and Thor. However, in order to really find out just how durable the Mad Titan is, we'll need to take a look at the Infinity Gauntlet, because it's by far the most powerful thing Thanos has ever had to tank, and he has wielded its power on a number of occasions. I mean, that's basically what Infinity War is about. So with all that out of the way, just how powerful are the Infinity Stones? Well, just to lay some things clear, it has been proven time and time again that each of the Infinity Stones have at least a planetary destruction level, through statements, visions, and straight up feats. We've already mentioned how the Power Stone can destroy entire planets just by touching its surface. However, add in the Space Stone, which was stated in the first Avengers film to have the potential energy to wipe out the planet, and the Mind Stone, which Thor stated could unleash more chaos than Ultron's world-ending meteor, or even the Reality Stone, which could bring darkness to the entire universe all by itself. And even if you don't want to say it's universal, it was implied by Jane Foster that it could at least destroy a star. Basically, using all these sources and feats as evidence, we can pretty easily conclude that most, if not all of the Infinity Stones each have the power to destroy an entire planet, or possibly even more. So using pretty straightforward logic, Thanos, being able to consistently contain the power of all 6 stones and wield their power without dying, should easily scale above planetary in terms of durability, and rather multi-planet level. And this is further backed up when Thanos was able to survive a hit from Stormbreaker, and this very attack proved to be superior to that of an energy blast fired from all 6 of the stones at the same time. So again, undeniably above planetary. Not to mention, Thanos was able to snap his fingers literally minutes after this attack, survived that, and then just a couple weeks later snapped again and was still left alive, albeit very close to death. We could also bring in Newton's third law into the equation, so every time Thanos uses the gauntlet, he has to endure the amount of damage that it dishes out. So to find out what this really means, we can just take a look at some of Thanos' best feats with the gauntlet alone, and then apply this to his durability. During the battle on Titan, Thanos is seen crushing one of Titan's moons using the Power Stone, a feat that has been calced to between 863.5 exatons and 11 zetatons. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out that Thanos was completely unaffected by this attack, and so this is yet another feat that proves Thanos to be planetary. And perhaps even better, whilst battling it out with Captain Marvel, Thanos is able to pull the Power Stone out of the gauntlet and hold it in his fist, using it to one-shot Carol. This same move almost killed the half-celestial Star-Lord just a few movies earlier, and of course, as I've mentioned a dozen times before in this video, the Power Stone scales directly to planetary, and it couldn't even lay more than a scratch on Thanos' hand. So if you're still not convinced that Thanos is on this level for durability, well, just go look at the power of the Infinity Stones. Thanos clearly scales directly to the stones in terms of durability, and so he should easily be above planetary considering that just a single stone alone can destroy a planet. And I know planetary might seem a little low for Thanos, seeing how there are plenty of other characters inside the Marvel Cinematic Universe who scale higher than this. However, just keep in mind that Thanos scales above Thor in durability, who is of course star level based on his feat of tanking the full force of a neutron star without dying, and there are a number of points to back this up. Just to name a few, Thanos has visibly reacted much better towards Hulk's attacks than Thor has, he has reacted less painfully towards the Power Stone than Thor has, and just in general, Thanos has a better track record of no-selling ridiculously powerful attacks than the mighty Odinson does. And we could also bring up the fact that Rocket states the Gauntlet's energy output is superior to anything else seen in the universe prior to it. So yes, whilst Thanos' durability scales to multi-planet level, remember that it effectively also means star level. And before you come yelling at me declaring Thor isn't star level and that he didn't tank the full power of a star, we'll just let each of you speak for himself.
You understand, boy? You're about to take the full force of a star.
However, even that is nothing next to the Infinity Gauntlet at full power. Combine all 6 of the stones together and they are essentially unlimited in power, as Thanos stated in Endgame that he could shred the universe down to its last atom and then make a new one, using the Infinity Gauntlet. So Thanos could possibly have universal level durability. However, since he never actually got to carry out his plan and destroy the universe, we will never know if he could actually survive such an attack. So for now we'll leave his durability at multi-planet level. And to give you guys an idea of just how impressive this is, Even if we lowball Thanos' feat and use the standard measurement for multi-planet level, which is 53.2 ninotons, he was still tanking the equivalent of over 1 sextillion nukes, each one as powerful as the Tsar bomb, the most powerful nuke ever detonated in human history. So how's that for Thanos not being able to tank a single nuke? Hopefully by now y'all have stopped doubting the power of the Mad Titan. When it comes to speed, well, just like with Thor, Thanos is actually a lot quicker than you may expect and is extremely agile in combat. In terms of combat speed, Thanos can easily keep up with characters like Thor, Captain Marvel, Captain America, Scarlet Witch, and a tag team consisting of Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Drax, Star-Lord, and Iron Man. Thanos was also able to easily outpace the Hulk in hand-to-hand combat, and during his battle with Thor in the Grandmaster's arena, Hulk was seen keeping up with Thor in combat, implying that Thanos' combat speed must be higher than that of Thor's, which isn't exactly surprising since we already saw that happen in Endgame. If you've seen our recent video on Thor, you'll know that he's capable of moving at speeds exceeding Mach 1000 whilst in combat, so logically Thanos too scales above these levels, making him, very much like the other Marvel Cinematic Universe characters, massively hypersonic plus. However, when it comes to reaction time, Thanos is even better than this. Thanos can easily dodge incoming attacks from Mjolnir, which is 429 times faster than the speed of light, as shown when it flew from the sun to the earth in under 2 seconds. So naturally, Thanos would have massively faster than light plus reactions, scaling off this feat. At the start of Endgame, whilst he was working as a sickly retired farmer, Thanos was able to react to a photon blast from Captain Marvel and block it using the gauntlet, which was now fused onto his hand. Photons in real life are massless objects, meaning that they always travel at the speed of light, making this yet another light speed feat. And if that's not enough to convince you, well, we've also seen him consistently reacting to Iron Man's repulsor blasts, which are stated in the Marvel Studios Visual Dictionary to be beams of light, and have always been shown to have properties of lasers. Thanos is consistently and very casually able to react to these same blasts both on Titan and during the final battle of Endgame, backing up the scaling for Thanos having faster than light reflexes. And what's even crazier is that you can actually see Thanos begin to make a shield with the Power Stone before Iron Man's laser actually hits the gauntlet, meaning that Thanos can not only react at these speeds, but he can also think at those speeds as well. Now, some people may like to say, well, if Thanos is capable of reacting to light speed attacks, then how come he's unable to dodge both Thor and Cap's lightning? And the answer to that isn't too confusing. Thanos was either just taken completely by surprise and therefore didn't have time to react, or he simply didn't try and dodge the attack, as shown when Cap calls down lightning onto him, and Thanos more or less just sits there looking up at the skies anticipating the lightning to come down onto him. So yes, Thanos' reaction time is still at least the speed of light as supported by these two feats, and likely massively faster than light seeing how he reacted to Mjolnir. Now, whilst Thanos doesn't have any other true abilities besides strength, speed and durability, there are still a couple of things worth noting here. Despite this not being included in his natural skill set, Thanos has shown a pretty strong resistance against telepaths, as Mantis was admittedly struggling to keep him at bay long enough for the remaining Avengers to pull off the gauntlet, and Mantis' empathy was powerful enough to restrain Ego the Living Planet, a freaking celestial. So it's entirely possible that Thanos could have a natural resistance against mind control hacks abilities. Thanos should also have magic immunity, as when asked why Doctor Strange didn't just cut Thanos' hand off with a portal, Joe Russo states Thanos' skin is too tough, implying that his skin is also magic proof. And when it comes to hand-to-hand combat skills, Thanos is easily amongst the most skilled in the entire universe, as he's been training excessively his entire life and, as we mentioned earlier, has over a millennia's worth of fighting experience. Over his time in the MCU, Thanos has displayed these incredible hand-to-hand skills many times, being able to successfully keep up with Iron Man, Thor and Captain America, three of the most skilled combatants inside the verse, all at the same time, and hitting Hulk with multiple combos, ultimately finishing him off in under 20 seconds. Whilst in combat, Thanos often wears his Uru metal armor which protects his already nigh impenetrable skin, and this armor is very tough, as even an enraged Scarlet Witch could only begin to slowly break off small pieces of it, and multiple combos from Mjolnir and Cap's shield could do no visible damage to the armor. And of course, the most distinct part of Thanos' skill set which he sometimes carries around with him is his double-edged sword, or otherwise known as his helicopter blade. This weapon is easily one of the most powerful within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as it was infamously shown to tear right through vibranium, something we've never seen happen before, but it could also block strikes from Stormbreaker and show no visible signs of damage, In fact, the only time it showed any signs of damage was when Thanos went one-on-one with Scarlet Witch, and she managed to only chip off a tiny piece of it. Thanos is exceptionally skilled with the sword, as he has been using it for thousands of years, and it was his primary weapon during his days as a warlord. Other than a melee weapon, Thanos has shown incredible mastery over the weapon, being able to throw it like a boomerang and always have it returned to him. This sword can also be used extremely effectively in combat, as whilst wielding the weapon, neither Thor, Cap or Iron Man could really land any hits onto Thanos, as he kept on blocking their attacks. That is until Cap summoned Mjolnir and managed to take Thanos off guard with a couple fancy combos with Mjolnir. The sword has the ability of automatically spinning by itself on command, effectively creating shields which Thanos can use to block incoming attacks, as shown when he blocked and overpowered an energy blast from a powered up Iron Man. And Thanos can also throw the sword at tremendous speed, as shown when he threw it faster than Captain Marvel flying whilst within Earth's atmosphere. And last but not least, Thanos is also incredibly intelligent, and honestly probably the most underestimated in this department. Even at his youth whilst growing up on Titan, Thanos was deemed as a genius amongst his own kind, his long life greatly assisting him with that, and quite possibly making him the smartest and greatest tactician in the universe. Thanos' intelligence allowed him to predict several upcoming and impactful events, including Loki's betraying and attempting to shank him, Gamora's lies about the Soul Stone, and even the destruction of his home planet, thus making him a futurist. Thanos' extreme intelligence combined with his intimidating posture and great strength is part of what makes him such a threatening and godlike figure of authority, and why he has so many followers and servants who bow to him. And while you're probably thinking this is all kind of pointless in the means of a battle, just remember that several others have either been tricked by him or cut off short because of Thanos' sheer intellect. So even though Thanos doesn't display any other true abilities besides physicality, what he lacks in versatility, he sort of makes up for it with his extensive hand-to-hand combat training and deadly weapon. And unfortunately, that's all I've really got for you guys today. Whilst MCU Thanos isn't quite the same as his comic book counterpart, I don't think people should be dissatisfied with the strength of the Thanos we got. As you can see in front of you, he's clearly no joke at all. He's incredibly strong, he's incredibly durable, he's got insane reflexes, he's had over a millennia of combat training and fighting experience, and using the feats and connections to the Infinity Stones which we've just spent discussing in this video, we can pretty easily conclude that Thanos in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a straight planetary opponent, both for strength and durability. The Mad Titan has shown to be stronger than all of the Avengers, including Thor, Hulk, Iron Man, Captain Marvel, Worthy Captain America and Vision, being able to overpower and defeat most of them with minimal effort. And the fact that he can wield the power of all 6 stones without dying would easily make him a multi-planet level opponent, with the addition of being star level considering he scales higher than Thor does in durability, and could make the Odinson bleed with his attacks. Thanos' feats are easily amongst the best and highest scaling inside the entire verse, scaling above all of the Avengers based on raw showings and even rivaling that of the MCU's most powerful characters. Whilst Thanos certainly isn't the most powerful being in the universe as he was proclaimed, at least not without the Infinity Gauntlet, he's still more than enough to defeat 95% of the other characters within the verse, and in my opinion he's only really surpassed by Odin, Dormammu, Ego, Hela, Surtur, Scarlet Witch, and a couple others based on scaling. And if I'm being really honest, Thanos might actually be the most durable character within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, purely based on scaling alone. I mean, yeah, Thanos likely isn't as tough as Dormammu or Odin, however neither of those characters have any feats we can compare to that of Thanos. So I would argue that out of every character that has scalable feats, Thanos ranks the highest in terms of durability, higher than Thor, higher than Celestial Star-Lord, and higher than Captain Marvel. Hopefully by now this video has made you realise just how much of a powerhouse the MCU version of Thanos really is, and has convinced you to stop whining about how he's not as strong as the comics version. Because guys, come on, that's pretty much the same with all live action comic book characters. If you enjoyed this video and are satisfied with our scaling for MCU Thanos, please feel free to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this video. And if you have any requests, please leave them down below in the comment section and we'll see what we can do. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.